Hello everybody, welcome into another video. Today I am Dr. Mally and today we're going to be covering Elden Ring lore explained by the one and only Vadi Vida. Vadi Vidya? Vadi Vidya. I'm calling him Vadi Vidya. It is a part one in a multiple part series explaining the Elden Ring lore. Now, if you've seen any of my streams at all, you know I'm very into the game itself, but I don't exactly know the lore. Either way, I don't know the lore exactly. I love the game, but you know, you don't really understand most of the lore by playing the game. I'm gonna be honest, you understand some of it, but not really most of it, because that game is way too big for me to be worrying about that or understanding that very well. So I'm gonna do a reaction to a lore explanation, and it is apparently very well put together. So let's get right into it. I'm excited. I'm excited to dive into this, seeing that I love the game as much. Hopefully we'll love the series, this explanation series, as much. Without further ado, let's get right into it.
Our story doesn't begin in the lands between. It begins in the cosmos, far away, with an outer god called the Greater Will. There are a lot of outer gods mentioned in Elden Ring. You can think of these kind of like the Great Ones of Bloodborne. They're distant beings, they're all-powerful, and they're quite unknowable by design. But many of these outer gods want to make their presence felt in the world. The Greater Will, maybe most of all. To this end, it sent a golden star hurtling towards the lands between. The Elden Star's incantation tells us that this golden star was bearing a beast, an Elden beast. The Elden Remembrance calls it a vassal beast of the Greater Will. If you didn't know, a vassal is someone who holds land on behalf of their overlord. Obviously, this is fitting in this case, because the Elden Beast occupied the lands between on behalf of the Greater Will, and was a living incarnation of the concept of order. As such, this beast would later become the Elden Ring. The Elden Ring itself is made up of runes of power, some great, some small, that together represent a sort of logic for the world.
Okay, first off, so basically we're all pawns in a higher god's being. Well, shit. That sucks. That means, then again, I'm not much of talk. I went with the fire ending. Frenzy Flamed ending, like, twice now. I'm not gonna lie. Because after watching every NPC I wanna see live, die, I'm like, I'm just gonna burn this place all to the ground, you know? Why not? Like, everybody I care for has died in this series. I might as well burn everything down. There's nothing left to save. I should wipe the board clean and let something else start anew, because it is so screwed up here. And that's what I do. I'm not gonna lie. That's why I went for the Frenzy Flayed ending twice already. It's just like, man, everything's messed up. The least I could offer, you know, in my eyes, it's a form of mercy.
To follow. Thus, the Elden Ring represents order. The true nature of this order is a subject of constant debate and research undergone by fundamentalists. But two of the key fundamentals are the laws of causality and regression. You can think of the law of causality as cause and effect, where actions have consequences, and those consequences are new causes that branch out into infinity. These are the relationships between things. Then there's the law of regression that states that all things eternally yearn to converge and return to their roots. Fittingly, then, the Elden Ring is housed within the Erd Tree, which towers over the lands between. But it's very important to stress that life in the Lands Between did not begin with the Erd Tree, the Elden Ring, or the Elden Beast. No, the Lands Between were occupied well before the Greater Will came. There were other beings here. There were other factions here. There were other gods here. And there was even another great tree here before the Erd Tree. And this is where a huge twist regarding the Erd Tree comes in. So
interesting.
There are incantations in the game called aspects of the Crucible. According to their descriptions, these are manifestations of the Erd Tree's primal vital energies. And I quote, "They are an aspect of the primordial crucible where all life was once blended together." But how could all life be blended together in the Erd Tree if the Erd Tree appeared after life existed? Well, there can only be one answer, right? That the Erd Tree is a parasite, and it took over a tree that existed here before. This ancient tree was called the Great Tree. So the Great Tree was almost certainly the location of this primordial crucible, and it must have been a very powerful primordial force for the Greater Will to have commandeered. It might even be the reason the Lands Between is important to the Greater Will in the first place. It also explains why spells and enemies related to the Great Tree's crucible would eventually be looked down upon.
Not gonna lie, in my playthrough, right, I entirely went through and killed every Crimson Knight. And I will admittedly say they're my favorite enemy type because they're so awesome. I actually went for all their armor, but I have not seen any of their lore. And knowing this, that they're representations of an old order, it seems, considering they used to, or at least they get all their powers from an old tree that it shows basically their existence is kind of like at least for what I understand of it right now, considering that everybody vows and loves this new tree, or pledges themselves to this new tree, and these people use the power of the old tree, their existence is probably seen as not just a reminder, but as something to shun. It's probably what he's about to say, which kind of feels bad for them. I went after them for no reason. Actually, I wanted their armor, so you know what, in my eyes it was justified. All right, you can't blame it on me. They just look too grippy. Their weapons were too good. I had to get them.
For example, the knot talisman is fashioned from a knotted vestige of the crucible, and it was considered a signifier of the divine in ancient times, but is now increasingly disdained as an impurity as civilization has advanced. Enemies related to the crucible are the Omen, the Misbegotten, and the Crucible Knights, and all three of them would be shunned, enslaved, or imprisoned. Those who speak for the Erd Tree don't want you to know its roots. So
okay, the other two, maybe you can enslave them. How the fuck are you gonna enslave a Crucible Knight? Those things are dead. You can't fight them. You can barely fight them. They're dangerous. They are dangerous motherfuckers. I won't lie, and I love them for that. They're like in my eyes when I play. They're like my favorite prey, I guess you would say, because they're like good fights. Speaking about that, I still need to kill the one in Faramazula. I'm not gonna lie. Running to it is such a pain though, because by the time I get to it, I end up getting hit by one of those doggos. I'll get to that later. Either way, how do you enslave a goddamn Crucible Knight? You would have to be one of the demigods or one of their high servants to be able to pull off that feat. I'm not gonna lie.
So to speak. According to the spell, Protection of the Erd Tree, in the beginning everything was in opposition to the Erd Tree, but through countless victories in war, it became the embodiment of order.
In Marika's own words, the Erd Tree governs all. The choice is thine. Become one with the order, or divest thyself of it, to wallow at the fringes, a powerless upstart.
But the Greater Will needed more than a big tree. It needed loyal agents in the lands between. To this end, it has the Two Fingers, who are its envoys. The Two Fingers heirloom has a weird picture of them, but it reads, "Of course, fingers cannot speak, yet these are eloquent. Persistently they wriggle, spelling out mysteries in the air. Thus did we gain the words of our faith." These words are interpreted by the finger readers. These are the undying old crones that you would have found throughout the lands between. They pass down the wisdom of the Two Fingers, or at least they used to.
Your fingers, please, your fingers. I can read them.
Most of them appear to have lost their purpose, and they're desperate to read your fingers and tell you annoying riddles, since their two fingers are likely dead. And yes, of course, there are multiple sets of Two Fingers. You would have found their corpses on the tops of the divine towers. Atop these towers, you loot the fingers in order to activate the true power of a great rune. Specifically though, you are giving benediction back to your great rune. You're taking a blessing back from the two dead fingers, essentially. This is just one of many blessings that the Two Fingers can bestow, and my point is kind of that the Two Fingers clearly have more than just influence. They have real power on some level. The Greater Will needs these powerful envoys and agents because, while it's obviously incredibly powerful, it does seem limited by a few things. First is space. The Greater Will didn't come to the lands between itself, it sent an Elden beast to do its bidding instead.
Yeah.
Second is time. There is a moment later in the game where your pair of Two Fingers go still because they're forced to commune with the Greater Will for guidance.
When they are finished, the fingers will again offer their guidance. But thousands, if not tens of thousands, of moons must first pass. No matter for me. But you, how will you ever manage the wait?
So the Greater Will needs a physical manifestation of order. It needs envoys to convey its will, but what it also needs is a god. Introducing Marika the Eternal. I have this utterly enormous mind map of Elden Ring's lore, and there's a reason.
That is goddamn huge.
I have this utterly enormous mind map of.
Though I gotta say, okay, what do we got here? All right, Elden Beast, Queen Marika the Eternal, Millennia, Mog the Lord of Blood, Mikola the Unalloyed, Millennia Blade of Mikola, the Elden Ring, the Elden Beast, Makaleth the Black Blade. That's my favorite boss. I'm not gonna lie, I am such like I love him. I love him. He's my favorite character design, my favorite character boss fight, my favorite. When I went to the DLC, I used his weapon and I finished the DLC using his weapon and his incantation. Absolute best thing there is.
Of Elden Ring's lore, and there's a reason she's at the center. She's essentially the equivalent of Gwyn from Dark Souls.
Oh, before we go on to, I forgot to put this detail when I was explaining that I burned everything. Yes, I had the needle that could cure me of the friends you flamed, and I still decided to burn everything down because at that point I lost all the NPCs. I did the whole quests for some of them, and every single one I did like 4. Everybody died. I thought, or got a really bad end. So I thought, I'm just gonna burn everything, you know? Screw it.
Except, unlike Gwyn, Marika didn't just crawl out of the dark and find power. To an extent, it seems like she earned it. We don't know much about her origins, except that she is of the Numen race, which is actually an origin that you can choose in the character selection screen. Numen come from outside the lands between, and are supposed descendants of denizens of another world, long-lived but seldom born. At some point, Marika was chosen as an Empyrean. What is an Empyrean? Well, an Empyrean is a being chosen by the Fingers as a candidate for godhood. As an Empyrean, Marika received the aid of a shadow to do her bidding. So what is a shadow? Well, It's a wolf, shadowbound to its Empyrean by the two fingers. Lunar Princess Rani is another example of an Empyrean with a shadowbound beast. You would have met Blythe. These creatures are the Empyrean's very own
I love Blythe. He's like my second favorite character. I'm not gonna lie. I love him. He's great. He's amazing.
shadow. They are completely loyal to their needs and, by definition, incapable of treachery. Marika's shadow was a beast called Malakath. Every Empyrean uses their shadow in different ways, but Marika's sole need of her shadow was as a vessel to lock away destined death. So what is destined death? Well, according to Enya, it's the rune of death.
The rune of death goes by two names. The other is destined death.
We mentioned earlier that the Elden Ring is made up of runes, and at some point, maybe when she was chosen as a god, Marika plucked the rune of death from the Elden Ring. She gave the rune of death to Malakath, her totally loyal shadow, who bore a...
Bro, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my god. So much badass energy coming from that. The golden black armor, the weapon being disfigured in some way, but still looking like it could cut you in half while having the black and red flame coming out of it with the gray hair. It's so awesome. If only the armor looked good on me, you know? It's the only thing I have about it. Armor doesn't look that great on our character, unfortunately. It's, you know, kind of a letdown considering, you know, how cool it looks and how cool it could look.
Black blade imbued with this rune. It's kind of genius, really. In a single act, she removed the concept of death from the lands between, while also commanding total control of death through her shadow, who could deliver it at her whim. Now, some of you might be asking, if death is removed from the lands between, how come I can kill this dog? First off,
How
shame on
dare you.
Second, from a lore point of view, that dog isn't really dead. It's simply in the process of its spirit, or its soul, returning to the Erd Tree. Catacomb dungeons, for example, are specifically constructed near the roots of the Great Tree for this reason, so that the Erd Tree can reabsorb their ashes back into it. This process replaced the concept of a death that you were destined to have. But this random spirit outside of a catacomb dungeon says it best. As another example of this theory, when you kill a major boss, you receive a remembrance of them. These are spirits, and they are hewn into the Erd Tree. In this way, thanks to the Erd Tree's grace, their spirits are immortalized, in a sense. This new form of death also explains what's happening when you summon spirits.
From ash and return to the Erd Tree.
However, some spirits never return to the Erd Tree, and they rise within death as corpses or skeletons instead.
Oh.
So this was the new order, and it's important to stress that it was in this moment, when the rune of death was removed, when destined death was taken, this is when order became the Golden Order.
The forbidden shadow plucked from the Golden Order upon its creation.
Specifically, this was Marika's Golden Order. So not only did she become a god and a vessel for the Elden Ring, she became renowned as Marika the Eternal for her removal of destined death. It was a huge part of her character and her reign as well. However, Marika had more than just death to conquer. She had wars to fight, as the world was occupied by many forces that could threaten her Golden Order.
Placidusax. Placidusax? Placidusax? Placidusax. I think that's his name. I love him. I love his breath attack, right? Big like a big laser. Big laser. Big laser go. But I like his weapon more. You know, the whole storm attack plus posture break, or not posture break, but it does like push you back a bit. If you use it against an enemy, it pushes them back a bit. And then it does a good amount of stance damage. And it also travels a bit, so you could charge it towards an enemy. I think that's pretty good. I think it's pretty solid. It's pretty cool, some would say.
There was war with the Storm Lord, who likely ruled over Stormvale. And there was a war with the Giants, who were masters of a flame that could burn the Erd Tree. There was war with the ancient dragons, who incidentally had stones that could twist time and thus slay a god. And finally, there was war brewing with the Carrion royalty, who had previously obeyed laws which contravened the Golden Order. Thus, sort of similar to how the Greater Will needed an Empyrean to enforce its will, Marika herself needed someone to wage war. So, there was to be a husband, a consort, an Elden Lord. The man chosen was Hoarah, a ferocious warrior who became known as the Lord of the Battlefield. His crown was warranted with strength, and while it was for this strength that Marika married him, he was also required to take a vow to conduct himself as a lord. To suppress the ceaseless lust for battle that raged within, Hoarah.
Suresh, right? I do remember that. Because I remember, you've done me courtesy enough, Suresh. And then the whole pulls it off and I come upon you as Horror or as Elden Lord no longer. I am Hoarah. Something like that.
Took the beast regent Sarosh upon his back. You'll notice this is another example of a beast being given for the purpose of serving order. Thus, in this moment, he went from being Hoarah, warrior, to Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, consort to Queen Marika, and a certified demigod. Godfrey and Marika had 3 demigod children together. There was Godwyn the Golden, who you saw being killed in the opening trailer, and there were also the reviled Omen twins, Morgoth, who guards the Erd Tree, and Mohg, who became Lord of Blood. You might think that Godric was another demigod child, but he actually wasn't. Instead, he was probably descended from Godwyn. Anyway, we'll talk about the demigods more in detail in another video, so subscribe for that. But for now, just know that Godfrey and his offspring were the first demigods, henceforth known as the Golden Lineage. In his wars, Godfrey led his 16 Crucible Knights into battle, who were named so for they fought with
they're his.
the primordial powers of the Erd Tree. Their incantations were aspects of the Crucible itself, and they likely fought giants, dragons, the Stormlord, and more to usher in their age, the age of the Erd Tree.
In Marika's own words, "Hark, brave warriors. Hark, my Lord Godfrey. We commend your deeds. Guidance hath delivered ye through each ordeal to the place ye stand. Put the giants to the sword and confine the flame atop the mount. Let a new epoch begin, an epoch glistening with life. Brandish the Elden Ring for the age of the Erd Tree."
The Erd Tree would go on to be largely seen as a blessing for all of those in the lands between, especially those close to it in Leyndell, the capital city of the Erd Tree. The tree bestowed blessings. For example, the dew that dropped from its branches were like jewels. It loomed overhead as a constant reminder of order, and its roots reached far and wide, relieving many of the burden of death. In fact, Erd Tree burial was one of the highest honors a hero could receive. One by one, the previous factions of the world fell. The giants were put to the sword, and their fell god was killed by Marika herself. The ancient dragons broke down the walls of Leyndell, but met fierce retaliation. However, I think the House of the Erd Tree encountered the most trouble against the land to their southwest, Leonia. Here, the House of the Moon repelled their offensives time and time again. And I mean that literally, because there was not just one, but 2 wars fought here. And in both of these, there was no victory for the Golden, nor for the Moon. And I suspect it was probably because of these lobsters. These damn things can snipe you from like a mile away, and it's bullshit. Actually, it was probably because...
No, speak truth, King. Speak truth. Those lobsters, I fucking swear, they are the devil, okay? Those lobsters, I fear them more than any boss in the game. I'm not gonna lie.
Of the Carrion Knights, who, according to their weapons, were able to wield sorcerous battle skills, and despite numbering fewer than 20, this power made them a match for even the champions of gold in battle. These enchanted knights were anointed by the Lunar Queen, a young astrologer who went on to establish the House of Caria as royalty in this land. With her bewitching lunar magic, she won over the Academy of Raya Lucaria, where glintstone sorcery was studied, and united the Carian royal family and the learned scholars of Raya Lucaria defended their home from the golden aggressors. At the head of this great golden army was Radagon.
Lord Radagon was a great champion, possessed of flowing red locks. He came to these lands at the head of a great golden host when he met Lady Renala in battle.
These two champions clashed, fell in love, and joined their houses.
Radagon once cleansed himself with celestial dew, repented his territorial aggressions, and swore his love to Renala. The Order of the Erdtree and the fate of the moon were conjoined, and all the wounds of war forgiven.
You might think it strange that the Greater Will would permit this union, but it's not too odd, all things considered. As with most From Software games, sorcery and faith are just two sides of the same coin, and both of these powers stem from the cosmos. Radagon and Renala were known to have 3 children together. Lunar Princess Rani, who inherited her mother's propensity for lunar magic, Radahn, who took after his father Radagon and would go on to master gravitational magic, and Rykard.
Bro. Radahn, such a G. Love the man. I'd say he's my third favorite boss. Yes, even, I'm not going to say that just in case of spoilers. I'm considerate enough not to say that. Besides that, I'd say first Makalith. Second favorite boss fight would be. Let's not count DLC here, because the DLC would be next on those. But let's see. Not counting the DLC, it would be then Placidusax, and then after that, it would be. I'm thinking. The Radahn fight, I would say the Radahn fight maybe would be third.
Who pioneered new hex sorceries and would go on to feed himself to a great serpent. It follows that at some point after this, Marika began to harbor doubts about the Golden Order that she had had a hand in creating.
In Marika's own words, I declare mine intent to search the depths of the Golden Order through understanding of the proper way. Our faith, our grace is increased. Those blissful early days of blind belief are long past. My comrades, why must ye falter?
And it's at this point that we should talk about Marika's motivations, her character. This is surely going to be one of those huge points of debate in the coming years, but for now, my working theory is that she wanted to discover the truth behind order and the truth behind the greater will, and she believed that bonds had to be broken so that they could be better understood. She believed that there was great meaning to be found in hardship.
Queen Marika has high hopes for us, that we continue to struggle unto eternity.
For Lord Godfrey, his struggle ended at the end of his campaigns. According to his armor, he led the war against the giants, faced the Storm Lord alone, and then there came a moment when his last worthy enemy fell, and it was then, as the story is told, that the hue of Lord Godfrey's eyes faded. In truth, he was robbed of his grace. Then Marika sent him away.
My lord, and thy warriors, I divest each of thee of thy grace. With thine eyes dimmed, ye will be driven from the lands between. Ye will wage war in a land afar, where ye will live and die.
This became known as the Long March of the Tarnished, as Godfrey and his tarnished descendants walked away from the lands between. But Queen Marika absolutely had a plan here, that Lord Godfrey and his descendants would one day return stronger, having struggled outside of grace.
Then, after thy death, I will give back what I once claimed, return to the lands between, wage war, and brandish the Elden Ring, grow strong in the face of death. Warriors of my lord, Lord Godfrey.
Soon after, she found a new husband. Either that or a new husband was found for her.
When Godfrey, first Elden Lord, was hounded from the lands between, Radagon left Rennala to return to the Erdtree capital, becoming Queen Marika's second husband and king consort, taking the title of Second Elden Lord. The mystery endures to this day as to why Lord Radagon would cast Lady Rennala aside, and moreover, why a mere champion would be chosen for the seat of Elden Lord.
Whatever the case, as a part of this union, Radagon's prior 3 children with Rennala became demigod stepchildren, granted grace thanks to their new family tree. Rennala was broken by this.
Yeah,
So was
I would
her country,
imagine.
Leonia. The Queen's set reads, when Rennala, head of both the Academy of Raya Lucaria and the Carrion royal family, lost her husband Radagon, her heart went along with him. And then those at the Academy realized that Rennala was no champion after all. In the wake of Radagon's betrayal and Rennala's poor judgment, Leonia struggled with civil war, with the Academy of Raya Lucaria on one side and the Carrion royals on the other. And it's here, during the age of the Erdtree, that Luna Princess Rani, daughter of Rennala and Radagon, stole a fragment of the Rune of Death.
It happened during the golden age of the Erdtree, long before the shattering of the Elden Ring. Someone
Looks
stole
so
a
cool.
fragment of the Rune of Death from Malekith, the Black Blade.
As mentioned previously, Malekith was Marika's shadow, and he had sealed destined death in a black blade. Then a fragment, only a fragment, of this Rune of Death was stolen. And once this happened, Malekith went a step further in protecting destined death. He bound the blade within his own flesh, such that none might rob death ever again. It was too late, however. This fragment of the Rune of Death was used immediately, that night, to kill a demigod, Marika's own son, Godwyn the Golden.
That was the first recorded death of a demigod in all history, and it became the catalyst.
Ooh, why is everything
Soon,
moving in
the
his
Elden
flesh?
Ring was smashed, and thus sprang forth the war known as the Shattering.
Now, there is a lot of really credible evidence that Marika was behind this plot to have a fragment of the Rune of Death stolen. There's
Ew.
also a ton of evidence that Marika is behind the entirety of your Tarnished quest, but we'll talk about that in another video. For now, all you really need to know, in terms of the timeline at least, is this. After the marriage of Marika and Radagon, and after a fragment of the Rune of Death was stolen, Marika went on to shatter the Elden Ring, and Radagon attempted to repair it, to no avail. The Elden Ring had been broken into runes, some great and some small.
You know, it's said that Lord Radagon harbored a secret. A famed sculptor of the Erdtree capital was once summoned to render Lord Radagon's likeness in giant stature, when he glimpsed the skeleton in Radagon's closet. And as such, it's said the great statue harbors his secret too.
Of course, the huge twist in Elden Ring is that Radagon is Marika, or depending on what you believe, he became her, for she knew it was going to happen.
In Marika's own words, O Radagon, leal hound of the Golden Order, thou art yet to become me. Thou art yet to become a god. Let us be shattered, both. Mine other self.
You can tell when From Software is keeping something a little bit open-ended, and of everything in Elden Ring's lore, this will also go on to be one of the biggest unknowns as we move forward. For example, the wording, thou art yet to become me, reinforces that Marika and Radagon were two separate entities before the Shattering.
Okay.
However,
All right.
in
You
contrast,
have me so
there
far.
is also evidence that Radagon was always part of Marika. For example, Enya says that
The demigods are each and all the direct offspring of Queen Marika.
but how can this be if Radagon married Renala and had those demigod children? The only way that makes sense is if Radagon was always Marika and he just went over there to seduce Renala long ago. I'll present more concrete theories in the future, but on this matter, the most important thing is, what do you think? While you can figure out a ton of Elden Ring's story, not all of it is open to interpretation. Certain things are, and this is one of them. And your interpretation is a big part of what makes this story special. At any rate, the union of Radagon...
What would I say? I'd like to think that they were separate entities, but it'd also be very, very cool if they were always the same, right? Because it would both change the story in some ways. As in, this was always part of her plan to, oh, you don't know your own fate, I know your fate. That you don't, you will be eventually become me, you know? I think in a story perspective, it'd be way more, I think, oh my god, wow factor, if it was always Marika, right? Oh, she planned all of this out, the great schemer, you know? At that point, it'd be pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I like to think, you know what? I'm gonna go with that one. I'm gonna say that's my belief system, you know? Not beliefs. It's my lore. That's my lore. That's my lore here. That's the lore I'm walking with. I'm walking. That's the lore I'm walking with here. Okay? Goddamn. Englishization. Don't know it. Anyways, that's the lore I'm gonna go with.
Radagon and Marika seems to be a union of two fundamental opposing laws of the Golden Order. We mentioned these laws earlier, actually. There's the law of causality, and Marika is an agent of cause and effect. And there's the law of regression, as Radagon is a character who aspires to be complete and regress together. So I have a theory that forcing these two beings that represent these concepts together would have corrected Marika's deviance. But even so, she was imprisoned in the Erd Tree for the crime of the Shattering.
Marika's trespass demanded a heavy sentence. But even in shackles, she remains a god and the Vision's vessel.
The conjoined Radagon and Marika even had two demigod children of their own, Miquella and Millennia. These two children were born afflicted. Miquella was cursed with eternal childhood, and Millennia harbored a horrific rot within. Even so, these two children were both chosen as Empyreans. They were immensely sacred beings and eligible to inherit godhood from the great.
Screw you though. Screw you. You killed me way too many. You killed me way too many times, alright? I ain't gonna lie. You and me, it's on site. On site beef, alright? On site beef. I am not gonna give you the second to get off that chair, you know. I ain't letting you put that arm on. You and I beef immediately.
Greater will. Perhaps the Greater Will was just desperate to find a worthy successor, and indeed in the Shattering War to come, many would try to claim the shards of the Elden Ring, and they would try to take the throne, including, of course, the Tarnished, who returned from their long march at long last, which we'll talk about in the next main lore video. I should probably also mention here that if you become a patron, you'll see upcoming lore videos early, as that's one of the rewards you get if you pledge to the $3 tier. And if you think my channel really adds a lot of value to the Souls games for you to the point where you pledge $20, then in this new tier, you'll receive a new mug every 3 months that has a unique design on it to do with the games by From Software. There are 4 to collect.
But
the first one you'll get is inspired by Dark Souls, then Elden Ring, then Sekiro, and finally Bloodborne. And they all have fantastic art that I worked on with an amazing artist named Chu. But anyway, I figured this is the right place to end this video because the information here is going to be overwhelming. I bet it probably was too overwhelming, you know? It took me ages to commit these names and the relationships they had with other characters to memory, so I hope you guys are doing alright. One thing that helped me a lot was that we designed an enormous mind map with pretty much all of Elden Ring's lore, all of its item descriptions, all of its dialogues, all of the
Damn.
relationships between characters that we can think of. We added all of this together, and it helped a ton in learning about the story and visualizing it all. And one day I will make this asset available to you all, because I think after doing it, I think this is the quintessential way to piece together the story, and I think giving you guys this asset eventually will make that accessible for people. So I'm really excited about that. I want to thank Absa and Zard for accepting the paid task of helping me put all the raw data into this mind map so that I could better understand everything. I want to thank Paragod for fulfilling all of my footage requests and creating so many cinematic scenes for this video and for you all to enjoy. And I last of all want to thank John Devlin for the incredible thumbnail. And of course, thank you for watching. There are some really exciting things ahead, and I actually believe this might be the best story that From Software have ever put together. I just think not only are there so many amazing item descriptions, but so many of them are impactful. There are so many moments where you piece together the story and have like a eureka moment, and I'm enjoying it so much. But now I'm gonna go and play the game a little bit because I've been editing this video for too long. So, see you next.
Alright, that was Elden Ring's lore explained. I am excited to get more of these done, I'm not gonna lie, because as much as I play the game, I would also enjoy it much more if I were to understand everything, which this is already a very big revelation. Marika and Radagon being the same people would be, at least that's the one I want to go with, would be such a like wow moment, right? Like that's pretty cool. I would never have seen that coming, which I never really understood after beat the game. I thought it was like, oh, weird transition from gold red hair, but I never thought about it like that. And then the fact that my favorite character, he got he had to imbue the death himself. What a G, you know, he couldn't let them steal it again. You know, like he couldn't let them steal it again, and you know what? I respect it. My man has to do his job, and he had to do it better, and he did it. You know, I'm sorry I had to kill him. And then the whole war things. The thing interesting with the first Elden Lord, not Horlu. I mean that's his name technically, but Godfrey. There you go, Godfrey. Kind of sad, you know. Did all his war campaign. And then the grace was stolen from them, and then they were cast out. I still love the Crucible Knights. I'm not gonna lie, I love them. Crucible Knights. So drippy, and so amazing looking. All right, well, I am gonna call it here. This has been such a really good watch. I'm not gonna lie, I've enjoyed this very much. Hope you guys all have a great day. Hope you guys enjoy your evenings or mornings. Have breakfast or dinner or your lunch or your brunch. Yeah. Besides that though, hey, don't scroll away yet. Besides that, have a great day. Goodbye. See you guys next time. Bye. Hello, hi. Just wanted to add in case you're seeing this after my video, I will be streaming at the time of posting this video, so if you feel at all interested in seeing me live, I'll leave the Twitch link in the description. Besides that, hope you guys all have a great day. That's it for me. See you guys over there. If not, have a great day.